What's up, guys? Welcome back to Engine25 Reviews. Got a cool one for you this week. We're talking about two recent Kenneth Branagh movies. One of them that got delayed because of the pandemic, so they both kind of came out in a very close window. I'm here today with Katy Burrell, regular guest on the show. She's a film communication scholar. She's an educator and usually has a lot of smart things to say, so I like having her around. How you doing, Katy? What's going on?
I'm good. Thank you for those kind, supportive, feel-good words. Sometimes you need to hear it.
Yeah, always happy to raise folks up when I can. Yeah, so today, I realized a few weeks ago, after going to see Death on the Nile, that Kenneth Branagh also has a movie nominated for Oscars right now, and they came out just not too far apart, within months of each other, because Death on the Nile got pandemic delayed. Yeah, so we figured we'd sit down and have a conversation about Kenneth Branagh and couple of his recent movies.
Glad to. Love to talk about Branagh.
Me too.
I think he's just he knows his craft, doesn't he? And he loves his craft, and it's evident even in the things that I'm like, well, but he knows his mediums for sure, and how they translate.
Did you I like Branagh going back a long way. Like he's been an actor forever too, but also like he's real famous for his Shakespeare films.
Yes, yeah.
And also like
those.
Yes. And Dan, who was just on another episode we recorded, he suggested Dead Again. It was 1990, 91 with Emma Thompson is really good. And I really like Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein adaptation. It's really cool. It's got a lot of style. It's kind of gross. But Kenneth Branagh's really good. Robert De Niro plays the monster.
It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah. Helena Bonham Carter's in it.
Yeah.
She plays the love interest. Kenneth Branagh is weirdly shirtless, like for half the movie. It's a good time.
Branagh move, though.
Yeah.
If you can do that for yourself, do it.
Do it.
He's so knowledgeable in his adaptations.
Yes. And
I think that's his bread and butter, but then he can also do the originality. He
has a thing for like old British cinema, and also as we'll learn from Belfast, old American westerns too. But that's and that's certainly Death on the Nile, and to a degree some of those other movies we mentioned. It has a very like old school British movie kind of feel to it. The way it's shot, the way it's edited, but it's got a lot of style too, and that's something that I really like. But I'm always all about the visuals, as you've gathered, and it feels very old fashioned, but again also has a lot of style. You like everything is shined up. Is the wardrobe is really dramatic. The cruise that they go on, everything's very clean. Yeah. It's got a really interesting visual style about it that I think works really, really well.
You can definitely tell it's a controlled set.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is the difference.
And I would say the same about, did you see Murder on the Orient Express from a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
And this is, in theory, a sequel to that or somehow related to it. It's the same Poirot, played by Kenneth Branagh, and he still has the same spectacular mustache. And just like Orient Express, he's surrounded by a fantastic cast of actors. Go ahead.
I had some, as much as I think it's an enjoyable movie, and I think the cast is good, but I just don't think they're all utilized well.
And that's a criticism I would have pointed at Orient Express too. Derek Jacobi was in Orient Express for 3 shots. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Some of them hit it and some of them don't. And I feel like for a director that's so based in the theater and can handle an ensemble, I think their production process and filming it, and rehearsals were just rushed. I feel like they separately had all these people, you know, rehearsing lines or getting direction, but it should have been more of a company, a proper theatrical company, and that would have translated much better on screen. But as it stands, I couldn't feel through the screen how these people were coming together. You know, I felt like there's just something missing for me. And I think the ones that worked well were obviously Kenneth Branagh as Poirot. He does well. But the only other ones that really worked for me were oh my god, what's his name?
Don't say Army Hammer.
No. It's not Army Hammer. It's
I really like
Russell Brand.
Book. Russell Brand's great. Yep.
Yeah, I thought Russell Brand was really good. He and his character worked for me in here. Rose Leslie played the maid character.
Game of Thrones and did Downton Abbey. Yep.
Yeah, she's great. I like her a lot, and I thought, you know, she worked here, and I liked it. And who else worked for me? Oh my God, why am I blanking on her name? Because she's so amazing. She was the singing character. Oh my God.
Her name in the movie is Salome.
Yeah.
What's the actress's name?
But she's so good, and I cannot believe I'm doing her a disservice because
Sophie Okonedo.
Yes. Oh my God. I thought she was just electric and just like magnifying in a very like je ne sais quoi kind of way in this movie. And I thought that
and Poirot agrees.
He does. And I liked that. It felt really, those worked for me. And everything else was kind of on the periphery, but those periphery.
I did like, I like Emma Mackey. Have you watched Sex Education? It's on Netflix.
I have not. No.
Yeah,
Was she the scorned lover?
Yes, the woman in the red. Yeah, the scorned lover from the that Army Hammer pretends to leave to marry Gal Gadot. Yeah. She's.
I have problems with all of that.
Well, you know, you're not wrong. It's a story from a different time.
Well, I mean, I don't care that, like, you know, he's like, forget you, you know, whatever, you know, what the whole plot is. But like, yeah, spoiler alerts. I just saw.
We're spoiling a movie from the early 20th century, or not spoiling a novel it has the same ending as the novel.
Yeah. I saw it coming from a mile away, and they tried to like, you know, surveil it, you know. But I don't know about you. I saw it coming from a mile away, and it wasn't helped by the fact that like Army Hammer's, I don't know if it was a choice in the performance or if it was just a result of like clumsy rehearsing or I don't know. It's easy to bash on Army Hammer right now.
That's true.
But
for unfortunate reasons.
Yeah. But I legitimately am confused because I picked up so early what was going on. And I didn't know if I was supposed to or not, the way that it unfurled. You know, because he's talking about their plans and exactly where they're going and all these things right in front of Emma Mackey's character, who is like in on this game with him, you know? And I was like, I see it. He's giving her the information right in front of her, right in front of everybody. And he's like having this like private conversation with Poirot saying like, we're going to take care of it.
It's like, you know what? I picked up on it, probably not immediately, but you know, I don't know, maybe halfway through that they were still in on it together. But I will say that most of the time, like an exposition dump, kind of like you're talking, like he's just like so clearly laying out the schedule or whatever. Like this is where we've been, this is where we're going, this is the plan. That it's a really clumsy way to deliver exposition, but. You know, in this case, I think it's okay because it's like, it's not telling the audience what has to happen. It's in a way telling the audience that they all know what has to happen. Like, does that, so like the exposition is really in the subtext. You know, and I think in general, I think that that's pretty effective, and that's something that's something that Agatha Christie does, and it's also Kenneth Branagh uses that tool a few times here.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not a great movie, but I enjoyed it, and it's some of it comes back to the wonderful cast he's assembled, even though they're underutilized by the script, but also, like we were talking about, he knows his stuff, like he's been a director almost as long as any major director that we talk about these days. Kenneth Branagh, he has a style, and he knows these are the beats I have to hit to make it so the ending doesn't just seem really convenient. Right? It's expert structure, if nothing else. Go ahead.
That's what I felt like I was missing from this, though, because I was like, where, at least in the beginning, because I'm like, there's so much going on here. I cannot negotiate what is the inciting incident and a piece of rising action, because like the movie really starts when the murder happens. That's the plot, is trying to figure out.
It's the same thing kind of with Orient Express. Yeah, for sure. Like and in this one, it takes place much later in the movie. Like it's almost,
and that's the issue.
Like it's probably 30, 35 minutes into the movie when.
Yeah. And the rest of it, it's just, it takes forever to get there. And I understand developing the relationships, but it's like, just get me there, and don't put all this extra stuff that's just going to cloud that story. Now, the other side of that argument is that, well, that's what gives us the story like flavor, like all these little dynamics that we have to introduce earlier. But I still think there's a way to do that with having a very clear, beginning stasis, inciting incident, and then going from there without packing in so many other things. Because if we're being honest here, the inciting incident of this film is potentially I don't even know. I can't even pick it out, because it all comes back around in so many weird ways. Like I wanted to say it's when he meets his friend Jack, or whatever his name is. Book. Thank you. Why did I say Jack? I don't know. He looks like a Jack to me, I guess. But when they meet on the pyramids, you find out later that it's not a coincidence, but that the way that plays in the beginning of the movie, that's the inciting incident. And I feel like those kinds of things are what make it feel clunky, because then you think, oh, he meets up with his friend. Like, whoa, that's weird. He gets like whisked away to like hang out with these people.
They're both in Egypt at the same time.
Wow. And that's how it plays later. It's like, oh yeah, of course that's not a coincidence. But for the action to ramp up like that, I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of unnecessary information that really clouded the structure of the film to me in the beginning. And that includes the opening prologue. I legitimately, Brandon, when I tell you, I whipped out my phone and I was what movie am I in?
I forgot about that. Yes, we could certainly have lived without the World War One. Like the reason he has the mustache, I don't need to know why he has a mustache. I can. The fact that they kind of wrap up the movie with him going to see Salome, and and there's obviously something happening there. He fancies her to in a way, but they could have found another way to express that he has been married before, and that it didn't work out.
Yeah, and that there was some kind of tragedy there. Absolutely. Yeah. And that would be a very like British cinematic thing to do.
Absolutely.
And so like I legitimately thought I was watching a different movie when this opened, until I saw Kenneth Branagh. And even then I was like looking it up, because there was like some other movie that had come out that was like black and white and like something or other, at least that was playing here, and I don't know what it was. I probably should, but I don't. And I legitimately, like, my pet peeve is people on their phone in the movie theater, right? So I really try not to do it.
I sit on my phone like during the previews, and then I put it away when the movie starts. Yeah.
Yeah. But I legitimately was like Wikipedia. I was like, what is going on here? And it just kind of like set the tone for the rest of the film to be like, it was like whiplash. I was like, what is happening? And I felt kind of the same way when like they walked into those like ruins and stuff on their river cruise, and then there was like find out later that her cousin was like, oh, I just kind of feeling a little murderous right now. And it just didn't fit right to me. I was like, what kind of movie am I watching now? Am I watching like a a weird Middle Eastern adventure movie, or am I watching a detective movie? Am I watching a World War I movie? I didn't know where it was going.
Okay, you're beginning to sour my opinion on it, because I can't really disagree with anything you're saying. But I don't. There was enough here that and maybe it's just because I adore Kenneth Branagh so much, but like the banter between him and Book really got to me. And it's like, he accuses everyone of murder. It's a problem. I admit it. It's there.
That's a good line.
It is. Yeah. It's there is enough here that I was willing to overlook some of the shortcomings. Like, and I honestly feel very similar to how I felt about Orient Express. Like, this is not a great movie. It doesn't do anything dramatic or terribly new with the source material, right? If you've seen the old movie, you've seen this one too. So if you've read the novel, you've basically seen this. Like, it has the same, like I said before, it has the same ending. But I guess it's the sense of style, and like he's obviously having fun with it, and that comes off very well. And that's if your filmmaker's having fun, then I'm having fun. Is often how things go for me, at least. There are definitely some problems, like, and it could have been shorter. And there's this whole over-explained thing, like we get the origin story for the mustache. Like, it's not even the origin story of Hercule Poirot. It's the origin of the mustache.
Of the mustache.
Yeah.
If a mustache had an origin story, it's the first.
It's the first 10 minutes of this. Yes.
They always just need to do the same thing with Henry Cavill's character from Mission Impossible.
Oh, dude.
I don't know why that broke me so hard.
This is people. This is the second episode we've done today. We've been podcasting for like 2 hours now. It's a thing.
Origin movie for a mustache. My
yeah,
God.
It's got a whole story about why he has a mustache. Gee, I don't recall because in the we're gonna talk about the mustache origin for a second. Early in the movie, like his commanding officer guy who gets killed, unfortunately, he has the crazy handlebar mustache. But then Kenneth Branagh gets injured, and he's speaking to his fiance about, like, because he's got scars on his face now. He's like, what am I gonna do? She says, you can grow a mustache. So, but then later on in the movie, or like really at the end of the movie, he has shaved off his mustache, which is like telling us, the audience, he's moved on from personal tragedies and he's ready to move forward with Salome. Did he have scar? Like, I don't remember.
There were a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe
there were a few.
It
definitely, I feel like
go ahead.
Sorry. The way that they had shown them in the beginning of the movie was very like Phantom of the Opera-y. And I was like, boy, there's no way just growing a big old stash is gonna hide like half of your face. And then at the end of the movie, it's like, yeah, like you see some scars on his cheek, but it's nothing like as gruesome as it looks at the beginning.
And if there's any positive thing I can say about like the intro scene, like the movie ends in a reference to where it began, right? Because we learn that he has the mustache for a reason. And it's kind of he's kind of living in the past to a degree, and then he decides, after some lessons he learns with the individuals he interacts with solving the murder on the ship, he decides to move forward and make a change, and she shaves his mustache, and it's a very, very simple visual cue, but it's in there.
I just think that, for everything, all the promotional material that was put out and the trailers it's so bright and lively that having such a dark black and white prologue that does not look, sound, or feel like the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it feels completely different.
Yeah, and I feel like if they had just not gone in that direction with like the flashback part of it, it could have been okay.
And it forms this kind of bookend with the story. Like, there are certainly other ways you could have filled in some of that relevant material somewhere else in the movie. Yeah. As opposed to having this like big World War I prologue it was just
not. It makes me sad because like Kenneth Branagh is like legend, but
it's true.
Like, what happened here?
I don't know. He was having fun. He made me feel bad for Gal Gadot, because her fucking fiance that he just.
Let's talk about that for a second though, because I
please do. Like this seems a little problematic, but also let me hear your take on it.
So I don't know about you. I did not know this story at all before.
Well, I've seen like an old movie or an old TV episode or something about like an old like BBC thing.
Okay. Yeah, I had no idea. And so from the promotional materials, I always assumed, and I think they edited it this way. I want to go back and look at it. But I think they edited the promotional materials in a way that made it seem like Armie Hammer's character is the one that bit it. At least to me.
They definitely underplayed that he's in the movie, and that's because 2020, 2021, it's one of those years that have now disappeared into flash because of the pandemic. It came out that he has some unfortunate hobbies that are so maybe they were trying, especially considering the movie was already filmed when that information came out, right? This was supposed to be a 2020 movie, and it came out a year and a half after that. So it was
for sure. And that all kind of came out when he was doing press for Rebecca, which is also another kind of like sexually driven show or story, kind of dark. And so his character in this film is so overtly gross, honestly. And I was just
how are both of these women? They're beautiful. They can do way better than Armie Hammer. And how are they both in love with him?
I mean, he just plays up that. Watching it is so disturbing, knowing his own shit, that I'm just like, I can't watch him grope this lady on the dance floor, and just like, and the character is just so, I don't know, it just doesn't land right. So in all the promotional materials with downplaying his involvement, at least to me, it seemed like I thought I legitimately, like, I told my family when they were like, oh, like, what happens? Like, what's it about? And I was like, oh, the Armie Hammer character dies. And I'm like, I'm sure they they can only release a movie and like try and promote it because of what happens to the character. And I still stand by that, knowing what I know now. But I legitimately thought that the way that they were approaching it was like, oh well, he dies anyway, which is still true, but in a different way. Because the character gets his comeuppance in this film. Like, he gets what's coming for him, and I think that's really important. And it's a good payoff, like story wise. Like, it is a good payoff. But it's like, we're talking about this film, like Armie Hammer kills Gal Gadot, like, in that, and not the characters. Like, I can't even remember the characters' names. And I think that's an important thing.
It's a huge problem. No, like I often, because of my own terrible memory, attribute that kind of thing to, like, there are a lot of faces in this movie that we know.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, but so I wouldn't necessarily always know Armie Hammer or Gal Gadot or Kenneth Branagh's name in a movie after having just watched the movie, and it's because when I see Kenneth Branagh, I know it's him. In this movie, it's the mustache is a big helper in that situation.
Yeah.
But no, this is like it's done a disservice because there's so many known faces in the cast.
Yeah. But I just thought it was interesting that I came to that conclusion. I feel like the marketing department really was trying to like keep the mystery and the tone alive of the film. And, I didn't hear about any press for this film. I didn't see anybody go on late night and do any interviews or something like that.
I didn't either.
Or at least I'm not aware of it. And that's telling in itself. So I think, unfortunately, this movie just kind of met setback.
I mean, it might have, yeah. Like, I hate to say, I hate to keep bringing up the Armie Hammer thing, but like maybe they
you can't not. You have to bring it up.
Maybe they like tried to brush it under the rug.
Yeah. Or if they knew they were going to send people out there, they were just gonna be like, so Armie Hammer, and you don't want that when you're promoting your film.
You don't want to just talk about the bad press around the cast, like, but the movie was already done too, like, so the movie had to come out. It came out at a time where there's like early in the year there usually isn't as much stuff to watch as we have had, and that's partially due to the pandemic, is everything 2 years of movies are going to get smushed into the next 12 months. So we're gonna be in like a wealth of or an embarrassment of riches kind of situation, and this is just one of them that they expected to probably do very well. The first movie, The Murder in the Orient Express, the reason Death on the Nile got made is Orient Express made way more than they anticipated.
Yeah.
So and then Kenneth Branagh loves the material and he wants to do like the Poirot connective universe.
Yeah. He's so good at adaptations. Even when he directed the first Thor movie, I mean, it's an adaptation. It's a little different because it's MCU, but
I would say like similar things about it though. Like it's got an old-fashioned British vibe to it. Like and that's the thing about it that I think holds up the best really is like kind of stylistically. It decides we're not gonna
it's opulent.
Yes, it's grand and it's shiny, and it's like up until then we'd had Iron Man, which is he's a ridiculous persona, but that's kind of in the real world kind of sort of, like it's and then so you could go
theoretically make an armor suit that flies.
Yeah, it probably a terrible idea, but physics might allow it. But so Thor, he goes off into space, like, and he just commits and says we're going to put our feet on the ground and we're going to do it. And it's because if you commit to it and you take it seriously, more often than not, it will work.
Yeah. And so I get that same feeling of that opulence and that artistic quality.
Yes, Death on the Nile has so much style. Like if there's anything it does very well, it's like the production design is spectacular.
Coupled with the cinematography of it, because it's vibrant. It is vibrant. And we were just talking this morning about how like the cinematography of the Batman with all the lights and the different colors is really important, but this is vibrant in a different way where it's like it reminds me of like how the blues and the greens and the reds of like Jungle Cruise earlier in the year.
Oh, actually that's one I didn't see. Did you like it?
Oh, I thought it was fun. Yeah. I saw something recently where they were somebody was criticizing Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson's lack of chemistry, but I was like, no, it's just fun chemistry.
Everybody likes Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, I was like, it works. And Emily Blunt, they're both like funny, hilarious people. And so it worked. And so I got that kind of same like stylistic richness, vibrancy feeling from these two movies, except not the 10-minute black and white mustache origin story. That's the difference.
Maybe that should have been maybe that should have been like they put it out on YouTube and say, here, this is find out how we got his mustache before the movie, before you watch the movie.
It's like the history of him.
The prologue.
It's like take a deep dive and then they get to go to the Nile. Give me a job.
Okay.
Somebody have me do this for you full time.
So yeah, so I feel like we're mostly on the same page. I like this movie. I didn't love it. It has a lot of issues, but I like a lot of the same things I liked about Orient Express. And if they, if they can find a reason to make another one, I will absolutely go watch it.
Oh, I would too, because it is escapism in a way. It's a little gruesome, but it's like there's a reason people watch true crime, and this is just like a little bit more fanatical than true crime, and that's why people liked Agatha Christie's writing too, because it was like, let me figure this out.
And certainly in Agatha Christie's time, like the sexual angle of all of this, and it's probably more dramatized in the movie because we can get away with it more than we could. But that was it drew a lot of attention at the time, because
great point.
The Armie Hammer's character may be a sexual predator, like that's kind of a thing. Like even it seemed like it was consensual, but he's also just kind of a gross human being. Let's
not forget that the character absolutely.
They are both in love with him, and it's baffling to me.
Premeditated, being like, hey, I'm going to leave you, but I love you. And we're going to trick your friend into actually marrying me because she wants to.
Yeah, and then I'm going to get all of your rich friends' money. And then we're going to run away.
I'm going to shoot her in the head while she's asleep. like, oh my God. Talk about a conspiracy, right? Like it's more than a murder, it's a conspiracy at that point, because he's like literally going up to Poirot and being like, with like her, the other chick right behind him, just saying, by the way, we're gonna go here on this boat at this time, and the staff will be joining us down here on this day.
Well, again, it seems silly, but again, like that's something that it doesn't bother me, because the exposition isn't the exposition, it's in the subtext. Like he's the fact that he makes such a point out of it, like it's not like he's not laying out the plan for the audience. He's telling the audience that there's something going on, and and then we're right there with Poirot, so it's.
Well, he laid out the plan for me, because I was like, well, it's 45 minutes in, and I know how this is gonna end,
Excellent.
Which I think is actually, I was talking to my mom, and she was like, I can't get behind the Agatha Christie stories, and I tried, and she used to read them, and she said, there was always some weird twist at the end that you would never be able to see coming, like in somebody's backstory, or like somebody was somebody's nanny, kind of like in Murder on the Orient Express, where like the
murderer is everyone.
Yeah. And I thought that was a very valid observation on her point. But I said to her, I was like, that's not this movie though. At least I saw where this was going. I saw it ahead of time. I guess you could pick up on it. Like you said, you picked up on it about midway through, right?
Yeah, like it's just it always seems suspicious, but no, it's like, oh yeah, when I was sure, like, or it's shortly after the shortly before they murdered Book. Yeah, like right around, and the movie's 2 hours long, and right a little over an hour, I was certain that there was just the two of them together. And maybe I had a hunch earlier on, but there's a lot of red herrings, and some of them I fall for, and some of them I like, that seems fishy. But
but it is what it is. I am with you, and I would definitely see another Murder on the movie, from Kenneth Branagh specifically. I don't want anybody else to do it. It has to be Branagh.
Okay, so let's skip ahead and talk about some more Branagh. Let's go over to Belfast, which is a written and directed by Kenneth Branagh again, and it's kind of sort of autobiographical, right? He's talked about it's he grew up in the times of trouble in Northern Ireland, and some of this movie is dramatized, and some of it is absolutely things that happened to Kenneth Branagh as a child.
Yeah.
it follows a boy named Buddy who's growing up, and there are like on the street where he lives, there are rioters because they want, they have political or religious vendetta against
agendas.
That's where I'm trying to get, where the word I'm trying to find, against folks who they perceive as opposition to them, in opposition to them. It's weirdly like poignant right now because the political spectrum has never been more divided than it is right like today. So that scene, it's just topically, it's felt very relevant. In addition to it being
too.
Yeah, like, and it's pointing out that the shit that's happening in our world is just like bafflingly arcane, but it's also still such a personal movie for him. What did you think about it? Like, I've been talking a lot.
No, you're good. You're good. I just, earlier we were talking about how Branagh is just so good at adapting screenplays from an original text. But he's also, we said he knows his craft. He knows his mediums. So if he does theater or film, he can kind of weave them together. And doing an original screenplay this time is just, I think the fact that he can pull off an original screenplay about something so personal in the middle of a pandemic and get so much recognition for it.
And that is that this film was from script to screen, began its life during the pandemic and is now released. So it's
and so the fact that he can do that and pull it off and get recognized for it in a way that's really deserving. It's not just like, oh, we're gonna campaign for this Oscar. It's like people are like, this is poignant. Like, there's a reason that this movie got made, and it's one of those like films that you can see the talent that goes into crafting something like that. So I think the fact that he's getting so much recognition for something so personal and an original screenplay as opposed to an adapted screenplay is just kind of like the mark of a master of his craft. He can handle material from different realms very, very, very well, especially with something that he wrote that is so personal. It's just, this film is just so intimate in the way that it's filmed.
Like, it's really like,
you can tell.
It's one little family that's living in this time, and he's, most of the time, Buddy is at home or playing out, very close to his house, with his mother and his older brother are around, and they have grandparents that live down the lane. And then his father works overseas in England. And he's played by Jamie Dornan, who, unfortunately, the only other thing I can name right now that he's from is 50 Shades of Grey. But
he's done some, oh my God, I know. And that makes me, because I know I've seen him in other stuff, and I'm not going to do him the disservice of not looking it up, because he's a wonderfully subtle actor.
Yeah. And that's a lot of this movie is very subtle and very quiet. And it's, it's like small groups of people talking, even though there's fires and explosions happening right outside the door. It's just, how does this one family live? How do they get through their lives while this big ruckus is happening right outside? And it's like, it's just so understated in a really beautiful way. Like, and it's in black and white. It's a little bit grainy, but it's very, oh God, like, it's just thinking about, I haven't thought about it in a couple of days, and it's,
nostalgic. Just for the record, Jamie Dornan was in A Private War with Rosamund Pike, which was big on the circuit a few years ago. Other big names of things that he's been in recently in the last couple of years, or last year or so. Wild Mountain Thyme with Emily Blunt. I did watch that. It's kind of a quirky little Irish love story. It was super cute. Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar, which is, complete other end of the spectrum. That's like SNL type crazy humor with like Kristen Wiig.
Right.
And he's got a couple of other projects all up in there too, but he's been around doing different things and getting his face out there, is good. And I feel like Belfast is the movie that he needed to make to say, all right, I can put 50 Shades of Grey behind me and actually do my job, you know? When he was interviewed on the red carpet at the
Right.
SAG Awards a few weeks ago, one interviewer had said something to him to the effect of, it's so nice that you haven't allowed yourself to be pigeonholed into like a typecast of like the sexy leading man that's like, 50 Shades of Grey. And he was very appreciative of the comment and said, like, I really appreciate that. Like, I needed to hear that because it's been a little tough to like make sure I'm out of that box. And I just want to do different stuff and, like be an actor and not, just doing the cash grab. And he said 50 Shades allowed me to be able to have the choice to show what I can do. And in the same way, I feel like Robert Pattinson, I'm still on the Batman thing because we were talking about that for
Yeah, we talked about
earlier.
Batman for like 2 hours.
But all those guys, that little British group of guys, that British Irish group of guys in Hollywood, they've said they were kind of like a little troupe when they were starting out. But it's the same thing for Robert Pattinson. The Twilight, money and fame and success allowed him the opportunities to be able to pick out the things to build his filmography and show what he can do. And I feel like Belfast is just the perfect piece for Jamie Dornan to do that in. Because the kid that plays Buddy is fantastic. And Katrina Balfe is absolutely wonderful. She can command a screen so well.
She
But
she was so good in Ford v Ferrari too.
Yes, she's just lovely. She's so good in everything that she does. Honestly, and I don't say that about everybody. Katrina Balfe there's something very there's something that simmers behind her eyes when she's on screen, even if it's like a tender scene or if she allows that character to build something up. But Jamie Dornan's character is really the steady thread of this film in a world that is increasingly fighting against this family and they keep getting bogged down by things. And Jamie Dornan's character, he's not a perfect guy by any means.
Not at all, no.
But the way that he plays that character is so steady. I feel like that was something that carried the film throughout. There's a lot of different great performances. You got Ma and Pa too that are just
Judi Dench and Ciarán Hinds. Ciarán Hinds has been one of my favorites since the HBO Rome series where he played Julius Caesar. And he has such a wonderful command of when he's there, he just demands respect. There's something about the way he talks in every role. And there's oh god, like the closest I came to tearing up in this movie when he's laying on the hospital bed and he's talking to Buddy. He's very sick and they're talking about like what if we leave Ireland? Like, are you going to be here when we get back? And he says something like, really like,
I won't be anywhere you can't find me.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Oh God. No. Yeah. It's wonderful.
And it's so, it tugs at your heartstrings because that Buddy doesn't fully understand what he means.
Yeah. Like, and he's not gonna like he's not gonna be there when they come back, but like they'll meet again someday. Like it's
beats like that I feel like that must have happened to Kenneth Branagh in some way. Maybe he lost his grandfather, or maybe even his father in a similar way. Or I think didn't his father die from COVID? And that's what made him want to write the script? I feel like I read that.
Maybe. Somewhere. Did that happen?
I should have looked it up. I think, yeah, he had to say his father passed. And that's what got him on the trek of writing this film. And so that whole moment, in a way, I think is because, especially considering it was written and filmed during COVID, that beat of the film, I think, is the payoff, of like, a couple years of hurt, and being able to like create that moment in this film. It was so personal. When I was watching, I was like, this is a moment that was handcrafted by Kenneth Branagh, like very purposefully. Not that the whole thing
Absolutely.
isn't purposeful, but yeah, that's a beat. And I feel like that the way that Kieran Hines played that is, I hope that's the part that they play for his Best
Like
Supporting
if
Actor Oscar.
I haven't
But
seen all of the Oscar nominees, but right now he's my I want him to win.
yeah, I yeah, you're that beat. Yeah, you've got it. That beat is, it's so personal in a movie that's just, I was saying earlier, there's something like, with the movie My Girl, how it's like wholesome but sad, but
Right.
you walk away with some kind of sense of like everything's gonna be
Like
okay.
really like bittersweet almost, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
I feel like Belfast ends on that kind of similar tone after all that
they finally
happens.
decided they have to leave, and then
Yeah. Yeah. Which is sad because if you think about the reason why, it's religious, political, factional warring of Protestants versus Catholics.
right. I
It's
mean,
been
and
happening in Europe for centuries,
the language is religious, but like the actual the beliefs behind it are more political than religious.
Yeah.
And I only know that, to be fair, because I did research after the movie. Like
Yeah.
I was not
Yeah.
familiar with this conflict and didn't realize
Oh,
how
okay.
long it went on. Like, so it's
Yeah, and that's the root of that whole bloody mess in Ireland for so long, and it's like you can't separate the political from the religious, and somehow they combined, and then they can't combine, and so then the IRA is also like, well, we're gonna blow some stuff up. And it's like, but I thought we were focusing on this. And then Ireland's like, no.
no, this is
So
what the problem is.
it's a mess. And you get that sense of chaos from the way that Kenneth Branagh wrote from the perspective of Buddy. It's just like, why are we looting? Because we
Yeah,
can. But I
it's
thought,
biological.
yeah, yeah. It's like, but I thought, like, I can just envision, like, all the people looting that store. It's like, but you're a Catholic and you're a Protestant and you're this and you're that. But I thought we were supposed to be fighting. But now we're all looting.
But now we're all just looting this poor shopkeep. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel like those lines getting blurred, using Buddy as that perspective, it was interesting to explore that conflict because there's just been so much. I feel like the kids like Kenneth Branagh that grew up during that time are finally starting to talk about what that was like.
Mhm.
And the same thing with Dairy Girls. I don't know if you're familiar with Dairy Girls, but that's
I'm not.
later. It's later in like the 90s, and they are still talking about the political warring and what is and isn't, you know, dairy. It's called London Dairy, but they just call it dairy because, they're like, we don't want to be England, And so there's all of those things. And I feel like the people who experience that are finally able to kind of like open up about it because of the stability that's finally been brought. It's hard to remember that a lot of those things are still very recent in Ireland's history. So
How do we feel about Belfast's Oscar chances?
I think I think Kieran Hines has a chance for his statue. Um, I know that Katrina Balfe was not nominated, which is a shame, but she'll have her day one of these days. And I feel like, is it direct or nominated for Best Picture?
It is. Yep.
I feel like
Best director
that's,
too, I think.
I was gonna say, I think that given what's going on and that we know the Oscars voting and campaigning is really just political, I feel like Kenneth Branagh has a shot for a original screenplay win. I don't know if he's gonna grab Best Director this year just because of what else he's up against and what's been in the news. just about other films and the way that they're
Right.
pushing those. And Best Picture is just kind of all over the place this year. I feel like Belfast is happy to be there
It
and
is.
didn't expect to be there.
Let me
And
look. The only other ones I've seen, Best Picture nominees, I've seen Belfast, I've seen Dune, I've seen Nightmare Alley. That's it. Nominees are Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, Power of the Dog, West Side Story.
I think I've only seen, I need to bring this up too. I've seen Power of the Dog.
Yeah, that one's on Netflix. That's one of many that I try to find an evening to watch, and it hasn't happened.
I'm gonna be honest, and I know we're putting this on the internet. I do not like that movie. I appreciate the performances, but I would advise you not to waste your time watching that movie.
Power of the Dog?
Yeah, it's boring. It's very boring. It's just the performances are great. It's definitely an acting heavy movie. The story is just slow and just like read the synopsis or the plot on Wikipedia and then you'll be satisfied.
I'll get everything I need.
Yeah, it takes a long time to get to a very subtle payoff, and I'm just like,
I want Tragedy of Macbeth to win for cinematography, which is surprising because of how much I loved Dune. But that's probably if either one of those wins, I will be happy. But
I loved Dune. I think Dune it deserves everything that it gets or is nominated for. It's a great movie. But for some reason, I'm also not clamoring to watch it again. Like I will.
That's right. We mentioned that, or I mentioned that about the Batman. Like I wasn't in a rush to go out and see it again. But like I've watched Dune
I did, so
6 times.
We're on the opposite ends of that. I think that's probably just in a preference of, I don't know, material genre.
Right.
Which is fine. That's how movies work. I'm trying to find. I just keep talking. All right, Best Picture. I have not seen Nightmare Alley. I would like to. I've seen Don't Look Up.
Check it out.
Okay. I've seen Don't Look Up. I've seen Dune. Why is it not giving me every one of them? What the hell?
I was just looking at the Wikipedia.
Yeah. All right. My phone didn't give me that. Hold, please. I had to pull up the New York Times. All right. I've seen Belfast. I don't even know what Coda is.
Coda, it's an Apple TV Plus movie.
That's why I don't know it.
And Coda is a child of deaf adults.
Yeah, they won the SAG award. Yep. Yeah, I've seen Don't Look Up. I have not seen Drive My Car. I've seen Dune. I have not seen King Richard or Licorice Pizza or Nightmare Alley, and I have seen Power of the Dog, but I did not prefer it. And I feel like there was some actor or director or somebody who recently said like, I don't really vibe with Power of the Dog. I don't really get why it's getting so much love. Benedict Cumberbatch was like defending it or something, just like in an interview comment. And I was just like, but I understand. Like it's really it's depressing. It's long.
Yeah.
Boring.
That's good.
Very little payoff. The acting's great, but it just takes forever. And I'm like,
good times.
Yeah.
We
you don't
will
need to watch it.
We'll probably meet up again and talk more about Oscars. Any closing thoughts on Belfast?
I thought Belfast is just one of those movies that makes you think, and I would watch it again for those lighthearted moments.
Yeah.
And it really made me think about, I don't know, about that period and history and like what that actually meant, like, because it's hard, I think, for a lot of us to think of something like that happening in such a developed area. And that's just the way that we've been conditioned to think. Right.
And it's
the media.
He really smartly, like the opening couple of minutes is just like in color montage of modern day Belfast, and it like shows the shipyards and like the neighborhoods where some of this stuff took place, what they look like today and stuff, and then it fades to black and white to go back to the 60s.
And that feels like such a memory too, which I think is just a wonderful way to introduce a movie. It's and so fact, different between Belfast and Death on the Nile. It's
you mentioned it feels like a memory. Kenneth Branagh apparently he filmed scenes in which he played grown-up Buddy, and it was going to be like a framing device and talk about it, but like apparently it didn't work. And you can hear all of a description of that on the Director's Cut podcast. It's the DGA film screenings, and then they interview the director, and it's a really great conversation with Christopher Nolan and Kenneth Branagh. So anyone who's watched Belfast should check that out. This is a really good conversation.
Yeah, I think anybody should check out Belfast at least once. You know, if that time period interests you at all, if something about like a coming of age story interests you at all, if the pull of Kenneth Branagh is in there, you know, if a family story is what you want, like it's just wholesome. I don't know what else to say. And you wouldn't think so about a movie that's set in like 1960s Belfast, but it's just wholesome.
It's true. And you know, he shows off, you know, like he's obviously really affectionate for this time in his life that was at the time very scary, but he also he didn't understand everything that was going on, obviously. And he, you know, it's really reflective about like entertainment, or the things that they did for fun while these are and in fact, you know, I love that they had John Ford Westerns, like the Man Who Shot Liberty Valance features really have like several times in the movie. And like, that's a favorite of mine. And then like they go to the theater and, what really interesting point is the live theater and stuff is in color.
Yeah. That was a cool.
It's a really, really interesting. Really interesting choice. It
was like a really cool way to get you to think about time and experience and that entertainment media aspect of it.
Yeah, so we obviously both really like it. And I love how understated it is. Like it has a very somber kind of quiet ending, even after you know.
It reminds me of like a French New Wave kind of like.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, and we're done, you know, but not in a way that's like leaves me missing.
No, like it kind of ends like in medias res, you know, like the conflict is still going on and they're leaving, but they don't tell you what happens after they leave or when they come back or any of that. They just, you know, it's like
this was the part of the story we had to tell, and we don't need to go beyond that.
Yes, and then it sees them on their way, and then it's that's all that we need.
And you can make assumptions about what happened based on what you know about Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
You know? Or even just like anybody else from that period. It's like, oh, well, you know, they probably did that and then maybe they moved back. That would work. You know, they didn't really want to go, so maybe they'll just wait it out, or maybe they'll end up happy there and just adjust.
Yeah, maybe everything is going to be fine and everyone will be happy and we'll all dance in the street instead of looting the grocery store. Who knows?
But either way, things are a lot better than staying in Belfast.
Anyway, thanks a lot, Katy. This
thanks.
For the viewers, this is the second show that we've done today because we haven't done one in a few weeks. So we've been talking for a while. We're going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody for listening. If you like what you hear, and you like some more movie recommendations, hit that subscribe button. We're also on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts now. Just search Engine25 Reviews. Engine25 is one word. And I will see everybody next time. Thank you.